I've always known the influence of sports betting from the research I conduct, the articles I read and review, but I never really knew the true power of sports betting until watching the 2022 FIFA World Cup with my students. I teach graduate students at my university. They're awesome. They're 22 to 25, and one afternoon during the World Cup, I stumbled into our workroom, and there was a group of them. They were huddled around a laptop. They were watching the Belgium-Morocco game. Now, none of them were Belgian or Moroccan. They didn't have a tie to either one of these teams. This wasn't a final or semifinal. It wasn't even really a knockout stage game. But these students were laser locked in on this game. Turns out one of the students had a bet on the game, and not your usual bet. They didn't bet on the money line or the over-under. The students didn't actually care who won the game. They didn't care if a goal was scored, because the bet that was placed was on the total number of corner kicks. Corner kicks. The student had the over. So that means as the game went on, especially in the second half, every corner kick that was awarded received a cheer like it was a last-second shot in a basketball game. With about 10 minutes to go in the game, the bet hit. The student won. And what got me wasn't the odd bet, which it was strange, or the fact that he could predict it, also strange. It was his reaction. He immediately said, "All right, now let's bet that Belgium scores next." He didn't celebrate the victory or the fact that he just won a bunch of money. He quickly reloaded the next transaction. In that moment, were my students, we're watching arguably the world's biggest sporting event. Were my students sports fans, or were they analysts, or were they both? As a researcher, I realized I was sitting back and I was watching the future of sports engagement in the United States. Because in 2018, if we were watching the FIFA World Cup in Russia, 95% of Americans couldn't do what my students just did because it was illegal. And my students, would they be watching Morocco and Belgium if money wasn't on the line? Probably not. Sports betting doesn't just change what we watch. It changes how we watch sports, and more importantly, how we experience them. Brief history. So in 2018, the Supreme Court struck down the federal ban on sports gambling. Since then, 37 states, plus the District of Columbia, have passed laws where we can bet on sports. That has allowed 80% of US adults to bet legally on sports. That has been huge for the betting industry. The American Gaming Association estimated in 2017 that just under $5 billion was spent on sports betting, primarily physically in a casino. In 2024, that number was $150 billion, 95% of it online. The AGA estimates that Americans will bet $35 billion on the NFL alone in 2025. The sports betting industry has become its own economic engine, transforming the DNA of the sports fan along the way. Alarmingly, the active fandom has changed and become more transactional as well. The real action isn't happening in the stands anymore. It's happening in the sportsbook apps in our phones. The transactional nature is showing up everywhere. Live sporting events remains one of the last true shared experiences in the media. You can thank live sports for those large bills you pay to the cable services and the streaming services. You can thank live sports for the high advertising costs and sponsorship costs that fuel the broadcast industry. Sports bettors are now the accelerant because they've unlocked a new sports fan. With my colleagues Steven Shapiro and Joris Dreyer, we've wanted to learn more about who these new sports fans are. We've uncovered 4 distinct segments: traditional fan, an action fan, an analytical bettor, and a fan-immersed bettor. The traditional fan remains emotionally connected to their team. They rarely bet. Action fan primarily bets for fun, for adrenaline. The analytical bettor, they chase opportunity, value. They see it as an investment. Those fan immersed bettors, they're all in. They're equally obsessed with their favorite team, their favorite sport, and the opportunity to place a bet. Across several studies, sports bettors outscore non-bettors when it comes to media consumption, fan engagement, and self-identified team fandom. Sports bettors are not disengaged, they're over-engaged. And those highly involved sports bettors, they are part spectator, part day trader. The scoreboard is no longer where you put the final result. It's a balance of open bets. And now we have games sometimes starting at 9 a.m. and ending at 2 a.m. That means the book is always open, creating a perpetual loop of deposit, wager, outcome, repeat. All of this comes with risk, right? The normalization of constant wagering provides a social concern, which is probably a whole different TEDx talk. It's an economic concern as well. Every fan has an open tab with the game. And when loyalty, attention, and money become so intertwined, so do the incentives at every level, the league, the team, fans, and as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, even the athletes. The question isn't whether sports betting enhances engagement. It clearly does. The question is, what type of engagement is it? My students would later tell me they remember the corner kicks. They don't remember who won the game. It was Morocco, by the way, 2-0. And that is the trade-off. We've quickly monetized the moment, and we've lost the meaning in the process. To me, the power of sport is undeniable. There's no stronger force for human connection and inspiration. The question I keep asking myself is simple. If every moment in American sports is now a market, what do we have left that it's priceless? Betting has not just injected capital into sports. It's monetized emotion. It's taken fandom and made it to interaction into a transaction. And every cheer, every groan, every final whistle now comes at a price tag. And sports fans are not just watching, they're investing and speculating and sometimes even chasing. But sports betting is here. It's here to stay. But so is the need for authenticity. The future of sport is dependent upon how we can find that balance. Because the real wager isn't on the winners and losers. It's on whether sport can remain something more than a transaction. Thank you.